It's Gimme Go! Do we have your audio right now? Is this, or am I just the first person to speak on the broadcast? It's going well, Jake.
It is going well.
For those who may not be able to hear it.
Rusty, what did we learn from yesterday? There were obviously a few different lessons, right? The fact that Avant are still in with a chance, Pentanet were eliminated, Direwolves have guaranteed themselves a third spot, and we finish off with the finale, the banger, the third OPL Classico that everyone is surely wanting to make themselves tune in for.
For today?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, Legacy vs Chiefs, last game of the day. It's hard not to be excited for that one, Skibby, so it's something that we're going to have to look forward to. But first game of the day is also going to be equal importance for making the playoffs. But in terms of what did we learn? What did we learn yesterday, Skibby? We learned that Fiddlestick sucks in One For All.
We did learn that, absolutely, as 5 of us joined in to the Nexus and didn't really have much fun. We got a little bit slapped around, but that is something to look forward to in patch 10.7. We are still on 10.6, and this is our schedule for today. Gravitas and Avant both hungry for that 5th and final spot in the playoffs. Avant with a chance, but Gravitas with the tougher end of the stick. They've still got to make it to go not only against Avant, but then to beat Chiefs as well. Any other result guarantees Avant are in with that 5th and final spot, and that means what we've got: Chiefs, Legacy, Direwolves, Order, and then that 5th spot available. So a tough order really here for Gravitas. They need to really rely on the likes of Parbu, who's, I think, from last week, really been that accelerant to get them so much momentum and just cause this sort of disarray and upset.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Parbu's got to be the cold soldier coming into this one. There's a very big role for him to be able to work with Praylist and get those upsets. Not going to be an easy task for them. AV did the hard work yesterday, right? If you cast your mind back, getting those upset victories against Direwolves. So because they were able to do that yesterday, the requirement goes to Gravitas today to go above and beyond.
Yeah.
And they still have to beat Avant before they even need to do that. So one step at a time if you're Gravitas, most definitely I set short term first.
I mean, I suppose if we, reference our good friend Spawn here, where he goes on these, tangents about it's a step that can then turn into a run, maybe a stagger, maybe a limp. The storyline really for it, the narrative here for Gravitas is they've got to really go hard today. If they look weak at any stage during that matchup against Avant, even if they were to get the victory, you're going to think, knowing how Chiefs are playing, knowing what Chiefs have accomplished, the amount of anxiety that you would have then going into that matchup would just be above and beyond.
Yeah, most definitely. And of course, that will be our first game of the day, so keep your eyes peeled for that one. My question for you, Skimmy, though, goes beyond that. And
yes.
How do you think our last game will go, Legacy against Chiefs? That's the big one.
Legacy and Chiefs is an interesting one, right? Because I was actually talking with Carbon a little bit about it before today, and I was like, well, how important is first seed? Obviously, at face value, incredibly important. But, how much more does it go beyond that? Yes, patches will change, strategies will need to be developed, and you'll have that week to prepare that. So I was kind of like begging the question to him, is there a world in which you hide back strats? Not to say that you necessarily sandbag, but do you want to not reveal something because you go, look, it's only a best of one. We're guaranteed the playoffs anyway. We're going to have diverse these teams as well. So let's stick those trump cards for the best of 5. And, from what he was mentioning with me, he was like, look, if I had an idea, I wouldn't tell you anyway. So fair play by him. But I think that is going to be a very interesting narrative from both of those teams with Chiefs and Legacy to understand really what their mentality and idea is.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question to ask him, and we may even get some carbon behind you if they're able to get that victory today. Once again, another victory lap perhaps from Mr. Tim Wendell. I'm excited to see that one. But yeah, at the same time, the Chiefs definitely got a big point to prove for themselves. They stamped down their mark on the OPL, because when you think all the way back to the start of this split, a lot of people, myself included, were excited for Pensanet.gg, who just missed the playoffs. And the team that seemed to fly under the radar a little bit was the Chiefs. And, a couple of their interviews, they were pretty angry with the public reception of them. So if you want to talk about who has a point to prove, it's definitely them trying to finish first through the regular season.
Absolutely. I mean, you're looking at these two rosters that have come into this one, obviously invested so much to really prove a point that they are the most dominant teams in the region. And, you've seen from not only the drafts, but some of the cute little strategies we saw. I mean, if I think Legacy, the idea of how they went up against Direwolves, you're looking at that level 1 invade, the ability that we've seen so many 5-man fans, and they go for this meticulously crafted invade where they get the kill in Tribush, then to go further towards the golems and then bait out that knowing Chippies is going to come in there and find a second kill. So things like that, yes, in a best of 1, once again, you're not going to see maybe as much of that risk because you need these victories, but in a best of 5, that's when the hype, the occasion, everything is going to be definitely something to look forward to. But I mean, let's obviously focus on this first matchup here. Gravitas taking on Avant. Like I said before, Gravitas need this win, but then they have to beat Chiefs in an hour's time after that, right? So Avant, you would like to say, had the easier end of it, but they have had a massive roster change.
Yeah, well, they do have 3 completely different spots. We've seen them still get success yesterday. The roster that they currently have was able to take down the Direwolves, so no slouches there at the very least. And, one of the hardest swaps of all of those would be Arpi being a support main, switching to top lane. Going against someone like Chippies is not an easy thing to do, but he seems to have held his own. He seems to have performed decently well. And so when you take that into consideration, well, you have to be pleasantly surprised, honestly, if you're an Avant pundit, for how they managed to perform. So coming into a game like this, when you think about the expectations, they beat Direwolves. Should they be able to take down Gravitas? Absolutely. But at the same time, Gravitas have beaten teams like Legacy. So it's one of those games that's really hard to actually call before you see it happen live.
Yeah, and I think, we talk about the fact, we had this narrative, right, with Gravitas where they had originally nobody in the top lane, then they put in Beats, substituting him from the mid lane to top, now to bring in Pabu as well. So there's been this big disruption, I suppose, for both these teams in that top lane. And I feel like Appy definitely slotted in pretty well. The Irelia, first of all, when he just absolutely crushed on that, and you're thinking this is a support player, in that top side. And then you had the double AD carries in the bottom lane, and Violet finally getting his chance to prove a point to this team that, like, you should have started me from the get-go. To have these 2 AD carries, the one question we were asking, would we see Gunkrab opt for the center? Will we see a more ADC punch-on kind of style come out of them? But the guy was rocking Taric, and he was making it look good.
Yeah, absolutely. That was the craziest thing, right? He played Thresh, and then he played Taric. He looked decent on both of them. The Thresh was in one of those losing games, but still at the same time, he looked comfortable being a support player, which is a surprise to say. It's a surprise to see, but I guess the contrast you have to make there is, he's still in the same role.
Yeah.
He has swapped roles before, and you do find yourself getting pretty comfortable playing either of those positions when you start to take up a shot calling or leadership role within a team. And when you think about the current Avant, that is one of the roles that he was actively taking. Violet even said in interviews that Gunkrab was a major voice for the team. He didn't realize how much he would be able to provide to, just improve his gameplay. So Gunkrab able to do wonders. And it's very clear now, you put them both together, they still seem decently fine.
They're pretty happy, pretty content, and definitely getting the job done. We're not too far away from Champions Select, guys, as we get into the very first game of the final day of the regular split. It is Super Week number 10. It's been a long split. Obviously, my very first one. It's been an absolute pleasure, and for you, one more to put on that bucket list of achievements going into 2020. But I think, league aside, would you say there were any major upsets? Pentana, obviously, with the hype that a lot of people were expecting to see them make it into playoffs. I feel like everything else, near enough, slotted into what the original predictions would have been.
Yeah, I think for the most part, we mentioned Chiefs being that anomaly. They've definitely overperformed the early expectations, but by like week 2, we were like, okay, these guys are just really good. So I'm not sure why we forgot about them or slept on them by any means. Direwolves finishing top 3. That was definitely something that I had predicted coming into this. A bit of experience working with them in the past. You'd expect some very good things from them, but they still have had some shaky weeks. And if you want to speak about shaky weeks, you look at the team directly below them in order, who they are outright 4th. They've gotten there by a decent buffer of wins as well, so overall their performance was solid. But I would say it was only really solid particularly towards the very end of the split, because that middle of the split was shaky, and I think they had a very big wake-up call to get kicked into gear.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm very excited to see how these teams will adapt to that new patch that comes out. Obviously, 10.7 being what we're going to be rocking and rolling on next week. But as long as we're focusing on this one here, I think the narrative has to remain the same. The likes of Wukong being a threat, sometimes team respecting it, sometimes teams letting it through and having a response to it. We saw yesterday, especially with Order, saying, you can have that Wukong, we're going to draft this, and we're going to beat it convincingly.
Yeah, and that actually is like, when you think about new champions that get released, they're often just different, and different can be hard to deal with. And often the biggest counter to those champions is time. So realistically, you heard it from Spawn after the game. He thinks Wukong's actually a fairly weak champion, but we still saw high priority on the pick for the rest of the day from other teams.
Yeah.
But, Order were able to beat it. And so there's proof there from them, at least in their opinions of how the champion and things like that go. So with more time, it does make you feel like perhaps things just get more discovered, and you see how it goes.
Now, Rusty, I suppose from a competitive standpoint coming into this matchup, sort of understanding the mentality of what this means, I'm very curious to see how these teams rock and roll. But let's jump into Champions Select right now. It's Gravitas taking on Avant. Let's see how game number 1 goes underway.
Feeling the heat? Grab a pineapple or pineberry frozen Fanta mix at Macca's. With 36 flavours, it's the largest range in Australia. Grab one for only $1. A little goes a long way at Macca's.
Welcome back, Spawn. We are here. We are ready for the big occasion. The very first game of the final day of week 10. It's been a long split. Split 1, 2020. A different atmosphere, different people, different gamers, different everything. But you're back. You're ready for the big one.
Is this thing on?
Me and Rusty talked about it.
Is this thing on?
I believe I can hear you. But then again, can chat hear you? That is the question. I got Twitch set up right to my side. Can they see you? I want to see some smiles in chat. Can we maybe get some Spawn smiles in the chat? That's what I want to see. They can hear you.
I don't actually know if Spawn Smile exists as a Twitter remote, a Twitch remote, but thank goodness gracious that we're back here. It's going to be a big one. This game, I think, is part of the puzzle piece that Gravitas need to secure to be able to head towards the OPL playoffs that will be starting next week. Of course, if Avant Gaming win this game, they're in. That's it. Done and dusted. Unable to be caught. And obviously, after the roster changes yesterday, we were very skeptical of whether this Avant Gaming lineup was going to be able to bring it back together. But that win over the Direwolves really did cement in my mind that this is a team that does deserve playoffs.
Yeah. Now, my question to you, Ra, whilst a little bit ambiguous and I suppose quite hard to answer until you sort of see the game go underway, do you feel like there is a mentality shift? Do you feel like, obviously knowing that Gravitas have a far higher burden on their shoulders to execute on, knowing that they obviously have a coaching staff as well, you would prep all week long coming into a matchup, but then to sort of see the results come in game by game in live real time, do you feel like there is a sudden shift that could potentially happen here? Gravitas say, we need to just completely change our mentality, completely change our ideas, and throw Avant a dog bone in this best of one?
Yeah, well, I think you would have been preparing for Avant Gaming, playing with Draku top lane and probably Gunkrab 80 carry, right? So you're maybe looking at things like the Mage's bottom lane. But then yesterday we see Appy play top lane, and his best performance was on Ornn. So you have to already, juggle that kind of game plan that you had coming into the week. You're going to take away the Ornn now. That's what we've seen. Appy also going to get rid of all the aggressive top laners. And I would expect Gravitas right now to try and get something for Pabu that is in his wheelhouse. I want to see something like Illusion. I want Praylist to play really heavily around it. And if I am Avant Gaming, I probably just want to go back to scaling team fighting, because they've said that this is a lineup they want to play with. This is a lineup they feel like they have good synergy with. And the part of the game that matters most is obviously late game team fighting. So I think Avant Gaming also probably have to change up their style, go away from a little bit of that Chinese aggression that we're used to seeing from them, and maybe play a little bit more for that scaling team fight. You know, a Callista Taric right here would be right in that wheelhouse.
Absolutely, and it would give them some bruises, give them some easy to execute, well you say easy, but the ability to obviously run, click and aggress, get aggro, get damage done on towards the Rift. It was interesting before that with Pabu hovering that trend. I saw him quite vocal coming into this week about how strong it is, but is going to flirt with danger and decide to go with the LeBlanc there. But I mean, that was really the strength that Pabu brought in on that first week, right? They had the Lucian, they had Praylist on the Jarvan, camping the lane, giving them the fantastic early start, and running a double ADC setup. Fantastic sieging potential and the ability to, you know, win a convincing team fight, slap down an objective.
And they've really just gone back to comfort here. Praylist is on his most comfortable champion in Lee Sin. Human's got his LeBlanc, we talk about that all the time. But Puma has also played this Vayne in the OPL so far. Doesn't have good weapon clear, but it has a really good team fighting and obviously great dueling potential as well. Pabu might be able to play it in the top lane, but I'm not really holding my breath on it. Puma has shown himself to be the Vayne player on this team, and we'll see whether that's going to work out. I think this is a real big gauntlet thrown by Gravitas, however, because their comp is much more unconventional. It's much more about, you know, skirmish, flanks, team fighting. Not really team fighting, like skirmish, flanks, you know, being the aggressor. Whereas Avant Gaming just have like a really good tempo jungler and a team fighting bottom lane. Like their composition so far makes a lot more sense in a competitive environment than what maybe Gravitas's does.
It's interesting right here, Spawn, because going back to my point before about having the double ADC setup, when Puma ran this, because there's only been one Vayne game this entire split, right? He ran this against Pentanet. They had the Braum as their support. They had a Lucian mid. They had an Ornn top as well. So they had the scaling components. And Puma went 9-2-9. The guy was a monster, right? He had so much room to maneuver in, so much protection to lock members down with the Silver Bolt. So I'm interested to see if the read is there. Obviously, the first component is to take away the Braum for that protection, to make sure that the Taric and Callista can execute, and that Ragnarok isn't a necessity as such. I suppose the second best bet then would be to consider Lulu.
Yeah, and I mean, Lulu's interesting, right? Because she is really annoying to deal with through Polymorph and obviously buffs up your AD carry. So if Chaz was going to play an Assassin versus the Gravitas lineup to maybe deal with the Vayne, obviously that becomes less attractive now. Might want to look for a control mage instead, which has historically given Lulu problems. I would look at something like an Orianna, but you know, Rumble and things like that's still available right now. Actually, he goes with the Assassin pickup. I don't love that, because as soon as he jumps in, he is just going to get blown up in this team fight. He's going to get polymorphed, he's going to get exhausted, so the ultimate doesn't do any damage, and then I think he's going to die really, really quickly. I much prefer Appy's pick here. This is what I expected them to go towards, right? Double, maybe even triple frontliners, and play around this Taric, and I think Poppy plays around Taric ultimate so beautifully well.
Well, that's a lot of frontline aggression to just jump in your face and I suppose scare Vayne into existence of you can't find that love that you'd be looking for to roam around the map and just, you know, pick apart people one by one by one. Now we're going to see what appears to be a Sylas. He's now going to switch it across. That's going to be a lock-in now as a Darius of all things here, Spawn, and judging by that face, I don't know what to expect.
Yeah, Darius is a trash champion, Skimmy. I'm not a fan of Darius at all, but what it does do is it wins the 1v1 very hard. And especially if he takes Ghost. Like, if he genuinely takes Ghost in the top lane, we might see a 50 CS discrepancy. And I mean 50 to 0, because it's very hard for Poppy to now farm in this lane. But in team fights, in the 5v5, definitely not the pickup that I would be looking for. But Pabu has been known for his unconventional champion pool. He also was very vocal that you can... Oh, actually, I know what they're doing. They're going to put Suman top. And they're going to put Pabu mid into Diana. I'm calling it right now. That's my
So what's
guess.
the plan here? Are we just looking at we want to win lane incredibly hard, and then on comforts feel that your comp to come to us just means nothing?
Yeah, so in my head, the reason I said that is because as soon as you take Ghost, right, you're going to push Diana in because she can't contest you on the way. No one can really contest Darius if you're near lane. And then you've got a Lee Sin and a Darius that's going to be able to hard invade this Olaf. And Olaf's life is going to become very, very different. So that's what I would expect to see. You know, just put LeBlanc top, Poppy is a really good neutralizing lane, so it's not going to be all that difficult for the Poppy, but I think the Darius as well as the Lee Sin should be able to get things done around Summoner's Rift. If I was a betting man, which I'm not, but if I was, I would be saying Darius goes mid into Diana, tries to make their life living hell, and then try and, you know, shut down this Olaf jungle nice and early from Lisa.
It's interesting, the fact that this is your final game, your chance to really make it through to playoffs. Avant, an easier time to get there. They can rely on any kind of result apart from this one. Gravitas needing this one. It's the final day. It's week 10. It is the Super Week as both of these teams. This is an important match to start off today. Are looking for that 5th and final spot into playoffs. Where is the Darius going to go? He's got the Ghost sitting top so far, but whether or not that lane top will come out, we'll have to wait and see.
I'm going to be so disappointed if it's actually just a Ghost Darius top, because I think that the thing about teleport is if you make one mistake as a top laner that doesn't run teleport, say you get ganked early on or something like that, you get a wave frozen against you, the lane's actually over. If you play flawlessly, obviously it's better to have the Ghost for all the kill threat that it does give you. But I just think that this is such a risky play for a top laner to go towards, especially starting Blade. Darius doesn't need to start Doran's Blade to be able to kill you. He can also go Shield. He can also just, you know, look to win the war of attrition. He has a heal in his kit. Obviously running the Conqueror, so extended trade's also going to suit him. I feel like Pabu's just gone maybe like a little bit too all-in on this lane pickup. He certainly wants to dominate the laning phase and be a split-pushing monster, and it does look like we're just going to get very standard lanes. So, first time in the OPL this season that we haven't had a teleport top laner on Summoner's Rift.
Glad to see how confident Pabu is in this match. The fact that he's locked in, first of all, the champion itself, and then gone for that summoner choice. If that is going to be what is necessary to find the lead. Obviously, there's no doubting the fact that Darius bleeds are incredibly strong, and level 6 gives you the execute, which is essentially what Lee Sin, LeBlanc, and Vayne all want to do. They want to execute you. They want to burst you down, and they want to all function as assassins. So we'll keep our eyes peeled on that. But I feel like the most important part is, where will Praylist decide to go? Will he babysit top like you asked for, or will he look to get Searman online with this burst assassin mage?
Yeah, and I feel like you have to be able to babysit the Darius, because if he falls behind, the game's over. Surely. You've pretty much saved your counter pick for it. You can see right there, the way Darius's kit works, for those that don't know, is every single spell and auto attack is going to apply a stack of bleeding. When you get towards 5 stacks, you're going to start taking a lot of true damage from the bleed as well, and then the ultimate also does bonus damage for how many bleeds you have on it. It's called the Noxian Guillotine. He's going to jump in the air, and he's going to dunk you on the head with the axe. And it's going to do a lot of damage. If you kill someone with that, because obviously it's an execute, you're also going to be able to get resets, and every single auto attack after that, hold the thought, as Praylist going for an invade here, and there is no smite available.
That's beautiful. He's going to steal away the red and the first blood. Beautiful first blood influence there as Praylist gets Gravitas on the board.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a difference in jungle style there. Lisa was going for a full camp clear, was actually a full camp ahead over Praylist. Praylist obviously stole the last camp away and gets the kill. But that's an all-or-nothing play. Pabu, meanwhile, on the top lane, he might be in trouble. Blade coming across.
Oh, he flashes in and commits full stacks, and the Conqueror's online. And he's going to get a kill.
Yeah, but that was really, really close. I mean, it does look good now because the wave is crashing in, and obviously a kill going across to the big Noxian in the top laner makes the pick look worthwhile. But I think that Appy, if he had his time again, wouldn't have taken the full all-in skimmy there. He just would have taken the chip trade, known that there is no teleport, that the wave's not going to crash, and that he should be okay. Pabu also goes back, gets himself a cull. Lisa's been double scuttled, and this game right now looks like it's all Gravitas's.
Sure does. Lisa's now with the control ward, going to be out of vision, looking to potentially contest, but Praylist a level up with double buff still. Does he get it away? That is the question. And he has. He smited that one away successfully. And it's interesting, actually, if we now divert our attention to the bottom lane, Trashly having gone for the defensive Guardian Rune Tree and also picking up the Relic Shield too. Definitely looking to sit back, play a little bit more defensively, and not fall victim to the all-in capacity that this Taric and Kalista can present.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll see whether that is going to be a major deal in the laning phase, because right now Gravitas looks like they're just having their way with all 3 lanes, to be honest. Gunkrab, however, going forward.
That's a lot of damage that goes on towards that Taric as the Polymorph comes across well, and a great trade as Gravitas health bars very healthy.
Yeah, and I'll be interested to see if they actually complete this recall skimmy, because if they do, that's going to be a frozen wave. Trashly checks the brush, however.
Knockback prevents the dazzle from connecting there as Violet gets knocked away. But they're finding them the priority in this lane, and respectfully so, based on the rune choice and just the overall CC it presents. And Gunkrab, every time that cooldown is available, he is using it, as you can see from that mana pool.
Yeah, and Trashly just keeps trying to freeze this wave. I think this time you have to accept that the freeze just is going to exist. You have to take a shot here because of how much they're losing the other parts of the map. You need an early shot to come back with something like the Bilgewater Cutlass. Actually goes boots too, which makes sense. I mean, that's an aggressive pickup for the Kalista lane, and we'll see whether now this lane really starts going heavily in favor of Kalista. I would expect it to. Chaz, meanwhile, wouldn't have spotted Prayless there. Flash forward from Suman.
Out comes the flash, but as you say, yeah, no mana to really follow things up with. You really wanted Prayless to jump in there, but underneath the tower, a little bit risky. Gonna prevent that recall from going out and keeping Chaz locked in place, but it will draw the attention of Gunkrab to roam on in. Will be able to provide that bastion for the shield and the armor, but he's looking at other options, potentially, to try and turn things around.
Yeah, I mean, what he was looking at right there was the fact that Suman was As Pabu also going to take a really nice trade up here in the top lane. You can see already 4 stacks of that bleed goes down, has the ultimate as well available. So if Chaz had been able to tick over to level 6 there in the mid lane, Skimmy, that certainly would have been a kill picked up there, because Suman was completely out of mana. But instead they decide to play this one a little bit more patiently. Really heavily winning jungle and top lane at the moment, but everywhere else quite even, and Avant doing a good job of holding on.
They absolutely are, and you can see they're doing a good job also of getting some vision down now in that bottom side, controlling the entry in towards Dragon. Both AD carries now have completed their boots too, so mobility absolutely crucial here, respecting the fact that any stun that lands, any CC that connects, they are in deep trouble, which is the fate that Lisa may be in, forced to burn that flash. 2 members of Gravitas hungry for kills.
I mean, there was 3. Suman was there as well, right? He was on the backside of the blue buff wall, would have been able to just sort over, use the ultimate to get there in no time whatsoever. And a well-coordinated gank towards the top side of the map. Burns the Olaf ultimate again. But I feel like this bottom lane is where Avant need to start playing around. Appy needs to be put on an island. Life support needs to be pulled from this guy. He's not going to be able to get anything done. The blue buff is going to fall down. But bottom lane right now looks to be a Kallista's paradise, Skimmy. So that's exactly where they play towards. They're going to get themselves the first dragon of the game and the first objective picked up for Avant Gaming.
That they will, and it's going to be an Ocean 1 to that, so some nice sustain to add to the mix. They would have had a ward down, so that's obviously what allowed Prayless to donate that blue buff away in safety with vision. But they're finding the ability to respond in the same fashion now. Well, will they contest? That is the question. Puma was underneath his tower, but he's looking to try and make something happen now. Bear in mind, LeBlanc has no flash, but does still have the distortion to move on forward as the axes come across, slowing down their chase attempt, and it's going to be a blue for blue.
Okay, so really nice trade there coming across from Avant Gaming. As soon as they saw Parbu in the mid lane wave, they just backed away completely. Now, however, Gravitas are going to look for the red buff invade one more time. Surely they know multiple members are there, and Chaz actually has to turn around to help his jungler. It looks like that is not going to be the case. Unfortunately, Lisa has been left completely to the wolves, or to the Archer jersey, or whatever Gravitas are wearing today, because his bottom side jungle is now also being pillaged and ransacked. I do like this swap, however, though, Skimmy, because you do have, hold the thought.
Flash going to be used again as Tarakal's roaming, and he's been doing this a few times now, really causing Seaman problems when he wants to get aggressive. If he jumps in one wrong step, the combination between those two really spells disaster.
Yeah, it certainly does, and I'm interested that they went back to this middle lane gank, because Triple Doran's ring on a Diana, you're probably not killing her, Skimmy. We used to call that the mini roller back in the day, and tank top laners used to build it. And you can see that Chaz right now, he's a tanky fellow. He's got 1,235 health, so it's going to be quite difficult to take him down in an extended burst trade. Obviously, the rings give you diddly squat late game, so it's a power spike now. But with how badly this early game was going, you understand exactly why Chaz went for that build.
Let's see how it pays off, because so far they are the ones in control of these objectives. Now they start off the Rift Herald, no vision once again. Gravitas are in the dark, and despite Lisa falling behind in that early engage, he's definitely the one commanding the overall team victory on objective scaling.
Yeah, absolutely, and I mean, I've been impressed by the fact that, you know, we were very vocal about how good Gravitas' early game was, Skimmy. But the reality is right now that they've pulled back the last 2 objectives very nicely. Violet, however, in trouble.
Glitter Dance connects, and Puma looks to try and get a few trades going across there, but it's going to be a 3v3 as both junglers show their face, make their presence known. Both will disengage as a result, and that's going to be the 10-minute lane swap, as is tradition.
Yeah, and you see now that duo lane's being matched, and once again, this should suit the bottom lane of Avant Gaming, who's now in the top, and it should also suit Pabu just fine, although with armor starting to be stacked up, it does look like Appy is faring a little bit better in this lane. Has been able to keep CS relatively even, and hasn't rushed boots too. Now this is interesting to me, Skimmy, because if I'm a Poppy against a Darius, I would be rushing Ninja Tabby. I would say 100% of the games. If he has Ghost, I would say there is even more reason to rush the Ninja Tabby. But Appy not going for it. Instead, he's putting a lot of value in completing items. So you're going to see a Sunfire Cape finished up fairly early. That means that the laning phase and getting towards Sunfire is going to be more difficult for the guy because he's not going to have that movement speed as well as a cool passive on the Ninja Tabby. But once he does get towards the Sunfire, maybe he can even start looking to trade a little bit more aggressively. The buff to this item is actually what brought a lot of the tanks back into the game. As Puma again, looking maybe a little bit aggressively, but nothing much happening up there.
Yeah, Lost Vision there, really wanted to condemn that Taric into the wall. Not to get a kill, but to definitely weaken their ability to be aggressive and command the priority in this lane. But things have stabilized a little bit. Only 2 kills in the first 10 minutes, but they will have that scaling component with the one-shot blow-up that obviously both of these major carries can possess. Once again, mid laner are going to get joined by the jungles, and they're going to show their face with Chaz definitely wanting to make the better of this situation. With those triple Dorans, wants to make sure that Lisa can execute with the Rift Herald, try and break open mid and just more vision, more gold.
Yeah, that would have been the dream there, right? You can see that if the ultimate had have landed, Human would have fallen down. He's very low already, and Chaz didn't use one of the E's on him. However, very well read from Praylist to be there to help his mid laner out. Now, however, with full control over mid lane, you can see all 3 members of the mid lane trio teaming up. They're going to potentially look for something here in this bottom lane. Pabu has stopped his recall. I wonder if he knows they're heading down. They're actually not heading down now. Violet could be the one in trouble. Pincer attack coming across here from the Gravitas lineup.
Praylist going to reveal them in the river, as now the move is made here by this Darius. Ghost is online. They're going to go for the grab on in. That's going to force out a flash from Gunkrab, making his engage attempts just a little bit weaker now. Dragon is spawning, as you can see on your screen. It's going to be an Infernal one.
Use of the flash there, Skimmy, because they did have the Fate's Call available, and they would have been able to pull him out of any danger there. However, with the flash being used, and with Appy just being able to hit top lane turret, I think this is a smart drop of a dragon. One Infernal Dragon, whilst nice, isn't going to cost you the game. It's only 4% stats. Not going to be an Infernal Soul or anything like that. And we have a Mountain Soul actually on Summoner's Rift.
That's going to find a lot of love here. The shield component from that soul, definitely going to be incredibly valuable. But especially with the tanks as well.
Yeah, I think if the left-hand side of the screen gets a Mountain Soul, this game is going to become very difficult. As Pabu gets the rip back.
He will indeed. GLP goes online, and Appy will just knock them back away. Wants to go for the reset. Does have the magical footwear, so that's why the boots weren't completed. And does have the Sunfire too now.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, not being able to rush the tabbies does feel a little bit strange, but now with magical footwork, we'll be feeling good. $300 for a pair of sneakers, and he didn't have to pay for anything. That sick footwear sponsor coming in. The goods at 10 minutes on Summoner's Rift. And 4 turret plates going down, so the gold dead even, Skimmy. And despite the terrific early game that came from Gravitas, we've just been saying how Avant are getting the little wins on Summoner's Rift, and this game seems to have been the case of little wins stacking up fairly quickly, and the game being dead even at 13 minutes.
Dead even, and you can understand right? The occasion that this represents. Gravitas needing to get a victory here today. They have the scaling component. Obviously, Vayne will be such a powerhouse in the late game. I suppose really the question is now, Spawn, is there a break point in which we can start to see him overtake the Callisto? We've talked about in the past, 2 to 3 items, really, really strong in the early game, but definitely the Vayne will start to come online later on.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends how the Lulu itemizes to be able to let that one happen, to be perfectly honest. I think that when you look at Vayne, she is very good on 3 items by herself, but if you give her an Ardent Sensor, maybe a Mikhail's so she can skip something like a QSS, then these are all of the items that really will be able to boost up her individual power level. I think that Puma's Vayne looked really, really good last time he played it, so I would say certainly going to be able to get there, as All-In actually going to be taken mid lane. No, ignored. This is very strange mid lane. So I would say I would favour Vayne probably from 3 items onwards, to be honest, Skimmy. In saying that, not much lockdown CC for the Callista here, so it's not like Violet's going to get completely stomped in the late game.
Well, he's completed that balk, and that's a nice little power spike for him to achieve now. We see where Trashley goes. He's gone for the rush of his boots, so extra CDR, more shields, more polymorphs, more ability to assist and protect. But yeah, mid lane has been an interesting one. There's been a lot of presence there, not only from the junglers, but from the supports as well, to try and make something happen. Fact is, there's been a lot of restraint shown by these players to not connect unless they need to do so. The flash kick in to try and lock and place Gun Crab. He is deleted as Pabu picks up that kill. The second to his name with that power spike now to Trinity Falls. But Chaz gets one on the score sheet, but it is a strong response here by LeBlanc that takes him down in quick retaliation. Now they can turn their attention towards the Rift Heralds, and Gravitas find some much needed kills.
And do they actually want to fight this? Or once again, are they just going to leave Appy to split push in a side lane? I'm not a huge fan of split pushing tanks, Skimmy. I'm not going to lie. I feel like they don't win you many games. And Pabu now has 2 kills to his name. He's also going to have that Rift Herald picked up. And Gravitas continue to come up with these little skirmish victories. This was a nice ultimate from Chaz. Did a lot of damage, able to pick up a kill. But you can see that the bleeds are just insanely strong. And if this Darius gets any further ahead, I feel like he is in very good territory to be able to take over the game.
Always scary when you're versing a Darius that is that fed, that just runs at you, swings the hammer around, and just, you don't know what to do. If you don't have flash, you're actually dead. And that's a situation that I'm sure they want to avoid.
I normally love playing against Darius. I'm like the opposite. I feel like he's one of those champions that is so heavily on a clock. Like, he does scale well, but he's brutally melee. And any form of CC is going to ruin his day. I think the reason that Pabu likes to pick up so much is you have a look at the composition. Chaz and Lisa aren't really going to do all that much to him. Guncrab either, to be like perfectly frank, although the Taric ultimate itself is nice if it ever gets into that situation. It really has to be up to Appy and Violet to be able to control Pabu. And if you're in a composition where there's 4 melees and a very short range AD carry in Callista, it's probably as good a time as any in comp to be able to play a Darius. So I think a good read on what the win conditions of Darius actually are here from Pabu. But I don't normally mind playing against the champion. Fed or not, I feel like he is kind of really heavily gated around his bleed mechanic and the fact that he needs an execute to be able to start the fight off really at all.
Yeah, he wasn't able to find it onto Chaz, so no reset on his guillotine, but regardless, with that power spike of the Trinity Force, was still able to emit a strong amount of damage to net them the win there. We wait to see exactly where they use and decide to get that Herald online. Now, question is, Avant finding priority in mid lane can be the first ones to set themselves up here. Do have vision down.
Appy's not here again.
LeBlanc is looking for the all-in attempt to try and jump in there and snipe somebody away. Chaz jumps in, instantly receiving an exhaust. He jumps in with the proto belt. Is going to connect, is going to do the damage, and Taric makes everybody invulnerable, as now Violet picks himself up a double kill. Make that a triple. How about a quadra? And can we get a pentakill? We can't. Appy steals it away. It's going to be an ace, but boy, oh boy, is Violet popping off.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. The team fight is just so much more difficult for Gravitas there. You can see that Appy finally teleports in. Flash takes Puma out of the fight instantly. That's going to be Pabu arriving a little bit too late as well. We take another look at this one. This is Chaz going in and getting exhausted, mate. And he still does so much sick damage. Look at Trashley's health. We'll get popped here on the back end of it. And you can see that it's just going to be the final Qs picking up the kill. And Pabu, unfortunately, not liking this invulnerable passive. Chaz getting himself over the wall and Violet untouched. It's the best thing about being an AD carry when you are playing with an assassin. It's like, you know, you're the tactical nuke, but they're the flashy guy with the nunchucks at the front of the fight showing off. And if people look at the person with the nunchucks, unfortunately, sometimes the scaling bomb does go off.
You've been watching too many movies on this quarantine, mate. You're losing your mind.
I actually, do you know what? I haven't watched a single movie. I hate TV.
You're joking?
No, I hate it.
So, how are you entertaining yourself? Because we talked about this yesterday, right? You're not enjoying too many games right now. You love to watch them. You love to cast them. So how else are you entertaining yourself at this stage?
I'm going to be honest. I'm not really entertaining myself. I've gone
no, mate.
hard on watching League of Legends. Like, my whole life is just League. I get up in the morning, I spend maybe an hour and a half with Jasper, have some breakfast, you know, maybe have a coffee. And then it's just League. I go in, I do all my meetings for Order, I watch a lot of League, we do scrims, I watch a whole lot more League, I get home, I watch LCK. On the nights that LCK isn't on, I watch LPL, and then on the weekends I watch LEC and NALCS. So I'm pretty much watching, like, I would say, upwards of 20 hours of League of Legends a week. And then casting
You're a monster.
Another 12 or whatever.
Have you hit the
my
point
life is just
of
League
perfection?
of Legends.
Have you hit the point of perfection where you're having League of Legends dreams? Or even maybe nightmares?
Yeah, I actually do dream about League a lot, which is stupid as shit. So,
Do you read Jasper
unfortunately,
bedtime
I do.
stories about it? Do you make up like fantasies of like solo queue disasters?
No, I don't make up that. I haven't got that far. My life isn't that sad yet, Skivvy. But he does watch League of Legends. I don't know whether you were there, but when we were doing mic check yesterday, he was sitting on my knee and he was watching the LCK with me. So he certainly does watch some League already.
Order Academy prodigy in the works.
You hope not, right? You hope that they're like. I mean, maybe you do hope that he is, because League of Legends has gone really successfully for another for 10 years already. So maybe it does have another 10, 20 years left in it. But you know, I was watching Valorant today. Maybe he's a Valorant pro in the making. That game looks pretty
potentially. Cool. That does look cool. I'm pretty excited to get my hands on
I
that
cannot
one.
wait to get a key. Like, to be honest,
we have to jam it. Surely, all of us. That should be our new MPL segment. Get Nick involved. Boom.
Do you reckon Nick's better at an FPS than he is a MOBA? I don't think he is.
I would like to think he was, because I feel like he's an energetic guy. Do you know what I mean? You know, he's a hands-on man, you know, living at IKEA with all that furniture in the background, getting all these rooms set up. You'd think he'd know his way around and a few tools.
Actually, no, I don't know this, but I'm going to make it up. I think he does have a hunting license. So he has fired rifles and stuff. So maybe he is good in FPS. Or maybe that's someone else, and I've just completely made up a backstory for Nick that doesn't exist. But I'm pretty sure we did a zombie apocalypse. We did a zombie apocalypse thing, and everyone was like, no, Nick wouldn't win in a zombie apocalypse. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm a farm boy that's like, you know, got a gun license. And I was like, holy crap, that's not what I pictured in my head.
Well, I mean, the fact that we wear the same shirts, we're essentially lumberjacks, so he probably does have his hunting license.
Oh my goodness, we are in a bit of a lull state at the moment.
I'm waiting for him to jump
into
Unity and start talking to us, but he's not, so we're not going to have those paranoia moments.
I don't think his computer works yet, mate, does it?
I don't know where he is. We've lost him for the meantime, but hey, regardless, we have got this game under wraps. 10 kills so far. He's favouring Avant, and much to the credit of this man here, Violet. Look at that score sheet, 4-1. Picked up a quadra kill, denied the penta by the Poppy. It could not have been a worse ending to that team fight, but the signifying moment really was, you're thinking, Gravitas are taking this one, they're slapping, they're doing the damage, but Avant came out that one, all full health bars.
Yeah, absolutely, and it was about getting to the objective first, right? And that's what I want to see out of Avant Gaming. You can change members, but you can't change the game plan this late into the season. And the fact that they are still playing heavily around the bottom side of the map, which is what they were doing beforehand, let's call a spade, and they're setting up well for their objectives. They're in the area for this dragon, 40 seconds in advance, Skimmy, clearing out all of the vision that they need. Is, you know, it's a joy to watch, to be perfectly honest.
Oh,
and
don't do the
what are you doing?
He just face checks into free, and that is CC after CC. Damage for days, flash, ghost, everything used to run away, and it is successful as the Freeman collapse will not find the kill.
Is it successful? Because he's not dead. But for the sake of this dragon, he's dead. Like, he's not going to be at the dragon fight, right? And so at a certain point, you have to be thinking, what did I just use 2 summoner spells for? Like, to not give them 400 gold. Whereas as a Darius, I'm probably like, all right, you caught me, guys. I'm not going to be there in time for Dragon, but I'm keeping my Ghost and my Flash up because we're going to go to Baron in a couple of minutes, and I'm going to use Ghost and Flash to rinse you there. You know, I'm a Darius. I've got 2 completed items. This is my strongest point in the game. So I would argue using the 2 summoner spells there to live but not be able to contest this dragon. They still get soul point. The tanks have still got double mountain now. And now Parbu is a bit of a sitting duck in the sideline because he hasn't got flash and he hasn't got ghost.
Well, it's game on now. You know, if it was a do or die situation, the true test of mental is definitely going to come into effect here. How do Gravitas respond to this one? And will Avant, knowing that, say, we can go for this Baron? We can really abuse the fact that, yes, we can go for a soul point later on. We have this, we're incredibly strong. Look at the items that Violet has. I mean, he's so far ahead of Puma. Yes, the Ardent Sensor is there to now assist him. Yes, there is a Rabadon's completed here by the LeBlanc too, but I think from what we saw in the previous team fight, all that gold surely is just music to their ears.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think Gravitas is still in with a shot, right? But the only reason I'm saying that, if this was a Chiefs versus Legacy games, and, you know, we hit the nameplates, and you had a look at the left-hand side screen, and if either Chiefs or Legacy were playing this, and they were playing to their best level, you would say it's practically game over. I think that they're really relying on Avant Gaming to make a lot of mistakes now for Gravitas to be able to climb their way back into the game. If you're willing to pick things like Lee Sin, who's an early game jungler, you know, the Darius in the top lane, who's very early game reliant. I like the Lulu and the Vayne for the late game scaling. I don't mind LeBlanc either, to be honest. She does have a place in some late game comps. But I just think, you know, when you compare the composition and the ease of execution and kind of how this game is going to go out, we're either going to a 4th Dragon and a Mountain Soul or a Baron fight, as you pointed out, Skimmy. Honestly, I'd just rather the champions on the left-hand side of the screen. They don't rely on mistakes to actually win team fights, whereas I think that Gravitas' comp does.
And they're incredibly strong on that facet as well, as Appy has a completed full mail too, so the guy has got so much armor, healing reduction as well. Ninja tabbies galore. Could be very tough for them to really be taken down in this situation. Probably doing a little bit of a dance, so still feeling himself out here in this match, but I am curious to see how this next objective goes down. How do Avant, knowing that they are in the driving seat, decide to play?
You can see that Chaz actually ult in again. Prayless is going to show up, but even with Prayless there, they can't do anything. They just start up the Baron.
There it is, and that was the call. That's what we were looking for. Chaz can go for the reset, can actually TP back in as well. Going to wait to see how this goes out. Fate's call is to initiate. Going to be a little bit short, but a flash will come out to connect with that stun. 4-member collapse down to Papu, abusing the fact that he hasn't got those summoners. Decimate will swing. The bleed will apply. The damage isn't done, though, and Ragnarok is the fact that survives here to make Lisa live another day. And it's going to be a numbers disadvantage as now 5v4. Avant have their eyes set on Baron.
Yeah, you can see that Appy was at the fight, and that's with Chaz still in base. That was a genuine 4v5. Human actually teleported there, and they're not done yet. They know that they still have a teleport. They know that they can force them to come back towards this side of the map. They might just look for the Baron.
What can LeBlanc do here? Glimpses of damage, glimpses of danger as he jumps into the Baron pit, looking for it again. Second time a charm. Gun Crab incredibly low. We've seen what happens before with a Callista. With the redemption, with the invulnerability, they jump in and exhaust already onto Chaz. Everybody goes invulnerable. Trashly comes out and he goes down into the grave. Members disengaging. Avant respawning, and they turn their attention straight back towards it.
Yeah, I think that's just going to be the end of the little tussle there. They got 2 kills for their trouble. They're going to take a full reset here. You can see full bottom side jungle back up and available. A minute until Dragon, and they burnt some pretty key summoner spells there. Puma and Trashly are not going to have any summoners for this soul point Baron take. So you can see that, you know, Chaz, who's got Flash available, he's about to ding over to level 16, going to have a field day. How do you deal with Appy now on your backline if you're not going to be able to flash away as Puma? Obviously, you can't roll out of that the Demacian diplomacy as well. So I think that this team fight kind of looks a little bit doomed. They spent too much defending that Baron. Sure, it was a successful defense, Skimmy, but I think they kind of threw the baby out with the bathwater there, because now this becomes very, very tough to contest.
Well, let's see how they do. Decide to go for that contest. 1 bounty in the game. 6-0 on that Callista. Violet popping off, really showing up in this game so far.
And why was he not playing the whole season, Skimmy?
Look, that has been what we've been asking every week, right? What is the mentality? What is the reasoning behind these starting players, right?
He is the top 4 in every 80 carry stat in game he's played. And in a couple, he's first. Like, he is genuinely just a superstar in the making, this kid. And he just couldn't get game time. They were playing him against the bottom 3 teams, they said. They hadn't lost any of those games. Now, Appy still in the top lane. Might want to look for a teleport.
Oh no, Prayless, what have you done? That's a face check. Instantly response as Lulu is forced to make him go big. Disengage again. TP is burnt. Appy joins the fight. They turn their attention straight towards this dragon. They want it. And without those summoners, the bottom lane of Gravitas really can't assist.
Yeah, without a jungler as well, that is going to be a very difficult fight.
There it is. Big shields for the boys. Flash goes out as the axe gets tossed. Avant have their eyes set on that victory.
And how easy does this look right now? They just burn one flash, they get Pabu's flash again immediately. That's the key ability that they need. The reason they picked this Darius is because it can run over a game. But without key summoner spells, and every single fight, he hasn't had flash skimmy. It's just not going to work. Chaz now level 16, now looking for his third item as well. Probably goes back, gets that one right now. I think they can just set up as a 5-man unit around the Baron buff, and I'm not sure there is all that much Gravitas can do about it.
I don't know, really, at the stage, how they respond to this one. We saw glimpses of LeBlanc be so strong to try and jump in, but just who is his focus at this stage of the game? You know, you've got so much tankiness on this roster. You've now got to deal with that burst negating factor of the Mountain Soul 2, and not to mention 3 successive Mountain Drakes added to your roster as well. So you're looking for burst. That's what this composition looked like at face value. It's just not going to happen.
And look at the shield on Violet. He's got another 600 health of Bloodthirster / Mountain Soul shield on top of it. He's also going to have the added resistances of being able to pick up a Merc Scimitar. He's already got the QSS. Maybe he goes for something like a GA afterwards. He's going to be a pseudo tank. Like, he is going to have such high resistances. And the only shred on the entire team is going to be a Black Cleaver. And there's no way Praylist gets 5 stacks onto Violet.
No.
This is the tankiest Callista you will see on Summoner's Rift.
I mean, imagine how many shields you can get. You've got like Legend Bloodline. You've then got the Rune, obviously, to assist that as well. You've then got Bastion shield. You've got Mountain Soul. I mean, as you say, a hybrid tanking ADC that is incredibly strong, literally fulfilling every role for this game.
And is a full item up over his counterpart in Puma. And Puma hasn't played a bad game of League of Legends, right? However, he has been stuck on this mid lane wave without the wave clear that a Rune-armed Callista is going to have. We'll go back, we'll complete maybe a rapid fire cannon, you would hope. Actually going to be a PD, so a little bit more of a defensive item here. You can understand exactly why with how Chaz has been playing these team fights, but definitely less offensive-minded than what we've seen Vayne's in the past. And I feel like this is going to have to be the big swing. They've got Human in the bottom lane. He's getting soloed out. Baron has been started. If Gravitas doesn't win one side of the map right now, I think it's game over.
Well, that 1v1 takes place in the bottom lane as highlighted. Members now piling in to try and contest on towards this Baron, which is down to 35%. The vision goes down to try and get a spot of vision to see if they can make something happen. The flashes are now starting to come back online. It's not going to be a factor for them to contest. The Baron is now complete. Avant are looking for the fight. They flash in. A Dazzle connects. The TP come out as responsive. LeBlanc likes to try and make something happen. Praylist finds a kick. Finds a kill. This is good so far. Cosmic Radiance does connect before he goes on
Look at
down.
the back line.
Receives an exhaust. Puma finds a second. They're looking for blood. They're looking for damage. Violet is going to fall on down. Puma makes sure of it. He finds himself a double kill, but he will get shut down as well. Multiple blows taken on every side of the rift. Gravitas holding on for just a little bit longer.
Yeah, they certainly are, but that was the best case scenario. It started off as a 4v5. Chaz was not there in time. They pick up the Taric. The ult was not perfect, and yet it is still just an even trade, Skimmy. It's going to be 3 for 3. We take another look at this one. I really have to question what Gunkrab was thinking here. He flashes forward onto Pabu, but the return damage is just so significant that he's going to fall down before his ultimate completes. Appy has to flash away as the tankiest member, and Chaz, because he thinks his team will win the fight at this stage, has to teleport so deep because he thinks they're going to be chasing backwards, and it's just not going to be there. Puma gets himself 1,000 gold shutdown. That will be significant as this game progresses, I'm sure. But the 3 for 3 trade overall, it's good, but is it good enough right now for Gravitas to be able to win the game?
No, that is the million-dollar question. You had that free item component now for the Vayne Ardent Sensor, as we mentioned before, already there to assist. So definitely the ability for Puma to execute there in a situation where members are split apart, members are running one by one. It is the dream for them to connect on. And Praylist very lucky to pick up that kill to get things started, to apply the stacks with the Black Cleaver. And Pabu now opting towards a much more tank-oriented build, having completed the Death Stance, Stoneplate as well, working towards the Bramble Vest completion. So does obviously have the damage component and is looking to try and copy in a way what this Poppy can achieve. But Locket is there, Redemption 2. This is so much protection for this Callista.
I'm really curious about going for the Stoneplate over going something. Hold the thought, because we might have a fight here.
Happy gets dragged in. Dazzle goes off again. Letterunkin gets used, locking down Poppy for a very long time. Out comes the hammer, out comes the axe, out comes the damage as people go gold, and it's going to be 2 kills lighting up just like a Christmas tree. Happy days for Avant. All things blue, all things damage, all things death. As they fall on down, 2 members survive. Underneath their Nexus turret, it's only Puma and a Dream to keep their playoff stream alive. Avant sniffing at that 5th spot. They can see it before them. Light is at the end of the tunnel. And with this victory, Avant will be going to finals.
And what a game from Avant again. This is back-to-back great scaling performances coming out of the boys in blue. They take it to the 5v5 team fights. They take it to the, the Soul Point, the Baron fights, and they're just able to come up clutch in key moments, Skimmy. You have to feel for Gravitas. They made that late season siege, but I think that, after defeating Direwolves and then after defeating their direct opponents for the slot in Gravitas, Avant Gaming definitely deserving of our last playoff spot.
Absolutely. I think it's even more so perfect, the fact that what happened in this week leading up to it, the fact that you can swap around your members. Yes, they are all comfortable in the organization, but then just completely flick it and say, you are now playing support and you are now playing top lane, and the cohesion is still there to execute at such a level and not be overwhelmed by the opportunity or the moment that is presented to you. Fantastic composure.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's not to say there weren't mistakes, right? They lost a team fight in that game. They nearly lost their Baron buff as well. But the impressive thing is this is such a young team, but they've shown a lot of resilience, Skimmy, and they're, showing that they have a lot of fight in them. And sometimes that's what you need going into a best-of-5 series. You need a lot of self-belief, and you need that resilience and fight, because you know that a lot of these series are going to be 3+ hours. And Avant Gaming are showing that in big moments, they play pretty good League of Legends. And that's all you can really ask for going into a playoffs. If you play, above average League of Legends, pretty good, on the right day, you're going to be able to take down teams like, Order or Direwolves, as we've already seen in Best of Ones.
That we have. And that means we have now got 5 confirmed teams going into the playoffs next week, where we will be having best of 5s, not best of 1s. But after this, game number 2 for week 10 of Super Week. Don't go anywhere.